Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Career Conversations. I'm here today with Alex. Alex graduated from Beedie in fall 2020 and completed a business analytics and decision-making certificate and concentrated in marketing and information systems. He has worked a variety of positions through co-op, moving from marketing and employer relations into more data-oriented roles. He was ultimately able to leverage these unique experiences to secure an internship post-grad as a product support engineer at SAP. Hi, Alex. Thanks for being here with us today.
No problem. How's it going?
Not bad. So our first question for you is, can you tell us about your background and your current role as a project support engineer at SAP?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start by giving a background in my post-secondary experience at SFU. So as you said, I completed my bachelor's degree in business administration at the end of fall 2020, concentrations in marketing and information systems. Early on in my post-secondary journey, I was a bit undecided on what concentration to pursue. So I decided to enroll in the co-op program so I could explore some different options. I was able to complete 2 internships during my last few years at SFU. My first job was in employer relations and event planning for SFU's Korean Volunteer Services Department. I got to perform some marketing experience in that role, as well as in coursework. So after doing that, I kind of decided that the path I wanted to go into was digital marketing, and that was my goal. So that's what kind of led me to pursue this certificate in business analytics and decision making, to get more of like a digital marketing, business analytics skill set. So in the certificate, I covered a lot of digital marketing courses and web analytics, marketing research, but ultimately I was kind of also interested in the more technical information systems courses. And I didn't really expect that beforehand, but once I found out that that was kind of an interest for me, it kind of led me to get my second internship, which was being a data analytics intern at Traction on Demand. And of course, after that, I kind of enjoyed that and then laid off during the pandemic and then finished up my last few courses. And then I decided to join SAP as a product support engineer. So my role at SAP essentially is about analyzing, resolving customer database issues. It's a kind of a technical consulting role. So for some perspective, I'm the only business major on my team that I know of, and it's primarily filled with people with strong IT and computer science backgrounds.
And what challenges did you face, and how did you plan for success in switching paths and ultimately achieving a role at SAP during this time?
Yeah, so in terms of switching paths, that was a process that happened probably as a result of my experiences over the span of my last few years at SFU. So I don't think there's ever a point where I had explicitly decided to transition to IT exactly. So I guess for some students, maybe they might say that they discovered their passion and changed directions because of that during school. But for me, I don't think that would paint the full picture. So I mainly transitioned because I was kind of inspired by a few interesting classes and profs, which piqued my interest in the data science, data analytics, kind of like database work. And I kind of found it a bit more interesting than digital marketing at the time, to be honest. So I just thought about how I could pivot my skills to that area to explore it further. So I was a bit fortunate because I was already on a path academically where I had a background in information systems from the business program, and the business analytics degree that I was always pursuing for digital marketing kind of also bolstered this other area that I wanted to go into. However, it was still kind of tough trying to get a technical role in IT or data analytics, with just because when I was trying to apply for data analytics internship, I really only had experiences the marketing VP at the student club and my employee relations and events coordinator work. So I feel like that's where it's important, where it was much better for me to go for an internship or like a co-op, because employers are, and from my experience, employers are often more open to candidates who possess what we call like soft skills, rather than looking for like 2 or 3 years of direct industry experience in that specific area. So if you are thinking of switching paths and want to do something similar to what I did, I would picture what you can bring to the role rather than slowly analyzing the resume credentials against job requirements, because sometimes the recruitment process can be more about how you relate your own experience to what the employer is actually looking for. In terms of actually getting the job at SAP, I guess a big challenge for me was the pandemic, which infected my employment opportunities. I'm sure a lot of students can relate. It was that fall period is pretty tough because in the midst of the pandemic, I got a lot of rejections and all that. So after I applied for SAP, I realized that I had a mutual person that I knew. I didn't know them personally, but just friend of a friend kind of situation. And they seemed to work in a similar role. So I just asked him, what his interview process was like, if he had any advice. And he said he works for a completely different team than the team I was applying for. But he said just be like, maybe check some Linux bash commands, which I was not familiar with, but I just found a list of like 20 of those the day before the interview and was able to test them, kind of memorize a few. And it turns out in the technical interview, they asked 8 to 10 of those questions and I was paired. And then from there, I nailed the second behavioral interview because I had obviously a good skill set of the employee relations, technical performance on the first interview. So I got the position from there. So I guess the takeaway from there is that sometimes to achieve the role that you want, you need a few kind of a few different things to work out for you, work in your way. I was rejected from SAP 2 times previously, but I think it was the combination of being able to relate my previous experience that I had in kind of a unique way, and also finding ways to kind of leverage any resources you can get in your preparation. I think that's really useful. So I know that some people, when they're looking for jobs, you don't necessarily always need a connection. So for me, I didn't actually know the person I reached out to. I just kind of reached out to them with a simple question. And I know a lot of my people that I've talked to, they've done similar things where they're applying for a company and they try and look for people in similar roles who might be open. And you can always just ask them, hey, I'm applying, for this role. I'm really interested in learning more about like what your process is like, what you do day to day. Just open up like a simple conversation. And the worst thing that can happen is they don't answer. But I don't think, no one's going to get offended usually. And it can, it's at some points, maybe you don't get the right, you don't get the specific advice, but like for example, he was a different team, but he still gave me advice that was very helpful and helped me, ultimately get the position that I wanted. So, yeah.
That's really helpful advice about making connections. So our last question is, do you have any advice for students looking to pursue a similar path?
Yeah, for sure. In terms of switching paths, one thing that really helped me was the perspective I gained from working at SFU Career and Volunteer Services, spending a lot of time with the career advisors there. So I would really recommend students try to utilize the resources they have there at Career and Volunteer Services, as well as whatever services they have in their own department. And I also think another big thing for me was doing the few co-op work semesters in post-secondary. So without those perspectives, I feel like it'd be really hard for me to actually understand what day-to-day work looks like and how you can relate your academic experience and how it translates to day-to-day work. So I would say that like of all the things I learned in my 5 to 6 years I was in post-secondary, less than 10% of what I learned is probably applicable to my day-to-day job now. So you could either look at that half glass full and say your university education is maybe a bit drawn out, you're not always getting the most relevant job skills. However, I think one of the main benefits of the model is that being in a learning environment for that period of time, it actually gives you more leverage to pursue a few different paths and lets you grow along with your experiences that you have along the way. And utilizing resources such as career advisors and doing co-op semesters really helps you build on those experiences and adapt and grow with your degree. If I'd simply done just a digital marketing program, I probably wouldn't have ended up where I am today. So personally, I really appreciated that experience and perspective it gave me. So I guess if you wish to have a kind of a similar path for yourself, I would recommend, don't be afraid to branch out, embrace new and different experiences, because whether it's negative or positive, you'll learn something from it. And I would also say not to get caught up solely in relying on the internet or your peers to find career advice. Utilize the resources, realize other resources such as career advisors and stuff. And for those like maybe, I remember for me, I did this all very light. My kind of career, probably like 4th year. It's not too late to try and do some stuff. And if you are graduating soon or just graduated, the good news is that you still have like a few decades of time to find work and develop new skills in your work environment through professional programs. So I've met in my personal experience, I've met software developers who originally had a Bachelor of Arts and people with technical degrees who are working entirely on technical roles.
Well, thank you so much, Alex, for all of your helpful advice and for being here with us today.
Yeah, for sure. And just to finish off, if anyone has any questions about what I said today or any follow-up, looking for any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just ping me a message, and I'm pretty open to any type of questions that you may have about post-secondary or career advice or for, interview tips, anything like that. So yeah, just extending that olive branch out there.
For sure. And all of Alex's information will be in the caption below.